and I want to put a question, just one quick question to the table. It's only one for everybody. I mean, if I ask you what your associates tell you what is going to be the main challenge for this year, the number one problem, the number one challenge, what you would say? I mean, only one. I'm sure your associates, they say, my number one problem for this year is this. I really would like to know from you what is the major problem. How is it?
Well, you say things are good in Norway, and nothing is perfect in paradise. As you may know, Norway has a very low rate of unemployment, and literally no unemployment in the knowledge-based industries, which means there's a very, very tough competition and a hard competition for the smart heads, which means the cost of salaries and employment for consultants have been increasing very, very rapidly. Yet the clients, on the other hand, are looking at what's happening around the world, and they're becoming more and more cost conscious. So the pressure on the margin for the consulting firms in Norway is really, really tightening. And if there's one thing that we need to sort of have a focus on is, steering around that problem. And that, I think, is the main issue for a lot of the Norwegian consulting firms.
Thank you very much. English?
As we said before, we have to deal with a global market change. It's not, as the first speaker say, it is not a temporary crisis, it's a structural change. So the major challenge is to go faster than the market, because there is lack of time. That's why we believe we have to change.
Okay. Thank you very much. Alan?
Yeah, I think everybody would like prices to be higher, but I think firms are getting used to the fact that they're not, and that they're adjusting. I think if you ask them what causes them most worry, it would be continuing low growth and economic uncertainty, which just means that clients are very slow to take significant decisions about investments, and that just holds things up and makes planning and running a consulting firm much more difficult.
Thank you very much, Alan. Hervé?
Well, not a worry, but more a challenge. I think that tomorrow the consultant will not be an expert in project management, but the main challenge is about mindset, thinking international, the link with the research and the innovation. So it's much more of a mindset transformation that expecting a reduction is in cost or expecting growth, because I think the crisis is over. We are a new world and we have to adapt to it.
Thank you very much, Hervé. Alfred?
Yes, I think the main question is how to find innovation. Innovation on both sides. On the one hand, for consulting, we have to find new models. Old models are over, we have to find maybe a new service providing system. But on the other hand, for countries, democratic systems are a little bit on a certain line, and maybe on the end of a certain line. And we have to discuss about it in our branch, how we can find innovations for Greece, for example, for other countries, for all of us, because today we have good figures, but tomorrow if our neighbors have not good figures, we all have not good figures. So we have to find innovation also for countries.
Thank you very much. Ezio, I'm going to ask you to do.
Considering the crisis and the globalization of the markets of our clients, the most common question is during this flat situation of the consulting, not a real crisis, but a flat, how to finance and to support the internationalization of the Italian companies, and how to finance the research and development of new products, services, and so on. Because I remember when I started to work as a junior 25 years ago, we used to finance the research and the development working inside the customers. I don't know in other countries, but it was normal 20 years ago that the clients used the customer just because they were something like a guru. Guru is an international word, yes. And we made innovation work inside the clients. Now it's not possible. We arrive already with products, ideas, services, new ideas, innovation, and so on. So we have to finance it. That's why I think that the answer is to increase the size, because we are not able to finance if we are too small. And surely the national associations can help the members, like Hervé Bacoulard said they are doing in France, with maybe connection with university, because generally in Italy universities are making a lot of innovation, but it dies inside the university, no? And major consulting firms can be a chain to deliver this innovation in the companies. Going to the internationalization, I think we can work at the European level. We have to make a network among associations. Otherwise, for the national association, it's not easy to help members to do something, to work abroad. So I think we have at the FEACO level to look for a way to give added value to our members on this kind of front.
Thank you very much. On my side in Spain, I mean, for us, our associate, the number one problem they have is the margin pressure. I mean, because unfortunately, I don't know if your countries is the same, but unfortunately in Spain, the power of decision on prices has moved from the end user to the procurement departments. And this is a disaster, because procurement departments, they are used to buy tangible things, and they are not used to buy intangible things. And so all the processes are done for buying cars or tables or computers, and they don't know how to buy consultancy. So for us, and the pressure on prices that we have, not only from the public administration, but for the large corporation, is really the number one problem we have.
There is an interesting initiative about this in France, I remember. Maybe every 2 years they used to put together in something like a research and a conference, the commitment, the real clients, the procurement offices, the consulting, right? Anyway, I think I heard it's the only initiative in Europe to fight this phenomenon, no? Maybe, I don't know the results, but if Hervé can say something about?
I mean, a purchase guy his only duty is to reduce price. So whether it is intangible or not, the purpose will be to reduce. So yes, we've tried to initiate a relationship with the purchasing, but much more on the non-pricing side, which is also very important, like regulation, the result or responsibilities of the consultants, and so on. So it has brought some results, but it doesn't have any impact on the price. Just if I got 1 minute, 25 years ago, the pricing per day of the consulting market was the same as the engineering market. And today, the engineering market, so as a price per day, is 1/3 of the consulting market. So what happens? It's a commoditization process. So as I said during the presentation, So in fact, there are so many consultants within the companies that there is a commoditization project. So it's like we're in industry now. Some products are obsolete, so they reduce the price, and some product could be at the same level of price for tomorrow. So if we don't invest, so change our business model, we will go like the engineering industry. That's it's true for a bottle of water, and unfortunately, it's also true for an intangible assets as we are. But I'm think that I'm really confident that if we move to another business model, we can stay on the business and attract young people, and there's really a room for innovation in our market. So situation is quite difficult, but situation is, I would say, manageable in order to achieve this change of model.
Thank you very much, Hervé. So, anybody has a question for the table? Yes, please.
Yeah, not only question.
Thank you very much. My name is
Not only
Abdesalam
question.
Boumedio.
Who? Yeah, okay.
Yeah. I am a member of association in Morocco. It's FMCE. It's Federation of Engineering and Consulting. It's an association which doesn't include ICT companies, such as management and engineering companies. I have two comments and two questions. The first comment is about what we talked this afternoon about, and this morning, about fragmentation of the markets. And this is the fact. What you say for the Italian market, it's something. It's international. When we talk about professional services, consultant services, it's fragmented. It's not legal services, and anybody can say, "Oh, I am a consultant," because there is no barriers, there is no background needed, there is no experience needed. So it's a fact. For example, in our association, we talk with authorities to have something like agreement. And we have management consulting agreement, but this agreement is used when you want to address the public sector. It's not a free market. So this is the fact, and the challenge now it's what talk about. It's a business model of management consulting growth. It's to talk about how to grow, because we talk about this conference about Europe growth. But you have to talk about those management consulting growth, and in the experience of each consulting firm, after 2, 3, or 4 years of business, they face to grow. They have to grow, and they have to find the business to grow, even if 3, 4, 5%. And the challenge is how to grow something. Sometimes is to have alliance. Sometimes it's to find the new opportunities, but it's a huge challenge. We talk about now some in US. We talk about e-consulting. We talk about result-oriented consulting, and we have to move, and we talk this afternoon about fees of management consulting companies. It's classic, but we have to talk about now the new model of fees, the new model, and something different, because clients now of this decade is not the clients of 10 years ago, and this challenge is to talk about the new business. Those companies, I talk about management consulting firm companies, small or middle, want to grow, but want to be small and beautiful. And sometimes it's a challenge how to grow, how to have more business, or being small and being beautiful. And I think FEACO could have to reflect about this, how to grow, how to find management, innovation in management, and to have the new business model. This is the first question. The second question about what you talk about this EU market. My company was addressed by some of management consulting in Brussels. And sometimes they are not known companies. Sometimes it's 1-2%. They have a deal to have, for example, in general, for example, in financial project in North Africa, they look for profiles. They tell you we need 3, 4, 5 profiles, and we have 300 fees per day. And they use sometimes the retired persons in Africa, in North Africa, and they don't have methodology, they don't have tools, so they have the deal. They just look for freelancers. They look for person who can have 300 or 400 euro per day. And FEACO, I guess, have to make lobbying to have the new rules to get this market. Thank you.
You're welcome. And the first question is, anybody on the table volunteer to take it? On how to grow. It's a difficult question, I tell you. Huh?
Yeah.
I'll just say something about my observation about the UK, which is that you're quite right. There is a constant process of fragmentation and regeneration that goes on in our industry, and I think it's by and large extremely healthy that many people want to set up their own firms, do something a bit different, believe they've got an innovative approach, and or believe that they have an expertise which is outstanding in their field, which means that they can succeed in a very competitive environment. And I think that's fantastic. And many of them go on to do work for the biggest clients in the world at an extraordinarily high level of quality. The question of where they want to end up is an interesting one, and how far they can take that. My observation is that many of them are quite content to grow it to 25, 30 people and leave it there, and that's a good outcome for them. Others will go to perhaps try and get it up to 70 or 80 people, but much beyond that, they're often saying, well, once you've got to that size, you're creating something which isn't what I thought I was trying to create in the first place. It's become something different, and it feels a very different experience to be running it, and they'll often then move to one side and let somebody else come in. So I think there's a very interesting ecology of what is the optimum level for different sorts of consulting firms, and how far can you take them. And of course, for many of them, let's be frank about it, the optimal outcome is that somebody buys them, and that's the end of the game for them once they've done their own out. So, an interesting question you raise.
We have to grow in any way. The small and beautiful is a specific case. The most cases is that someone has a connect with a government body to take a project. That's why a lot of companies are small. That's why we have a lot of in-house companies that no one works there, but they say that they work. So what we say is that we need to network in order to change. So we have to grow, I don't know if 30 or 50 consultants, but an experienced consultant can work with another one. Because how we can create knowledge, tools, methodologies, how we can create, for example, for countries like yours or mine, cheap services, to say it's not bad, but with good methodology, to have the competitive advantage. We have to grow. There is one way, no way back for us.
Thank you. I'm taking the second one. You are completely right. I mean, the purchasing methodology of the European Commission has not much sense. So we have in FEACO, we have a commission that is, we are a registered lobbyist in the European Commission, and every time that we discover, I mean, we are fighting and publishing white papers because we think that the European Commission, they should buy projects and not people. I mean, they buy CVs and they should buy projects, and they should pay at the end of the project if the project has been successful. And they don't do that. I mean, we in FEACO, we have been working in a European standard. Doesn't make sense because we have a European standard promoted by the European Commission that we have been working 3 years, and they don't apply with their own standard. I mean, and we tell them every time they say, listen, this is a European standard. You should buy project. You shouldn't buy CVs. But I mean, it's very hard. I tell you, it's one of our priorities to change that.
Anyway, tomorrow morning, the head of the commission, Mercedes Sanchez Valera, will explain what we are doing, we are trying to do in our lobbying activity with the European Commission.
Yeah, first of all, allow me please a critical remark as a friend of the organization and with a positive intention. For me, it is a little bit sad that we have now less time to discuss these real important questions instead of these partly boring presentations. Sorry about that. But now the question, and perhaps I have later the time to explain why Austria is in such a splendid situation, like you, Ricardo, pointed out. But first the question to Kyrie Pantelis Koukos, President of SESMAS. It was as well very inconcrete. Then what does it mean when you're telling us we need new jobs, we need innovation and so on? How can you do it? And my question is directly to you, what do you expect from an international organization like FEACO or like ICMCI to support you?
Yeah, okay. We say,
Sorry
of course,
to frighten you.
No, there's no problem. Of course, we didn't present what we have done for the creation of new jobs. One thing that we told before is that we can create recycling funds through the new European Union money that has to come through the support frameworks for the whole Europe. As the whole Europe countries take money, as Greece too. So we have to change the way that the money goes to the market. To go to the market for the productivity and innovation. We can do the plan. We can explain the plan exactly now. But if you'd like, I can explain later. For example, to give money to the young people that likes to go to make a work, like a loan, not like free money to do something. Mm-hmm. The other is that, of course, we are a member of FEACO, but we are not here to beg any assistance. We are here to say that it's good for all of us to networking, because what happened to us maybe happened to others also, because it's a global crisis. Mm-hmm. That's why. And we say we have experiences that can give you in free or in charge, anything.
Thank you. No, one thing is very important, and I think he has a point, is that all the projects in the European Commission, they are not given to a country or a company. You need to make consortiums. I mean, for the largest projects, the European Commissions, they like more than 3 countries in the consortium. So if the networking that we have within FEACO helps a lot for making consortiums and going together for the European projects. And I think is one of the best things that we can do in FEACO is this networking, because if tomorrow I need 3 partners in Europe, I will go to my friends in the table. I'm not going to. So, and I say, listen, I need a company in Austria, I need a company in France, I need a company in Greece. Because if not, you don't get the project. And it is one of the best things that we can do within FEACO. Any other question, Giuseppe?
I have a question for Alan. You mentioned that in the last year in the UK, business process engineering decreased. In other words, cost cutting is less emphasis, while change management went up. So I assume that this means there is a higher involvement and attention on HR and human resources. Because in my understanding, change management means to manage people and prepare people and create an environment where people will behave differently. That's my interpretation of change. And one thing that surprises me sometimes is that in a situation where, particularly in the UK, but generally speaking in Europe, we moved from manufacturing to service. And the service is based on people. And unless you put people in a position to deliver their best they can based on their skills, without, of course, harming the internal environment. So you have to get people to behave. But you don't get results and you don't get innovation. My feeling is that we talk a lot about HR being strategic, but in fact we don't give enough attention, and this is true for the clients, but maybe on our side as well. So you want to just to see whether you can comment on this.
I suspect you've answered your own question, but it's. I think you're absolutely right. The change, yes, it is a lot about people. It's not exclusively about people, but a lot of it is about delivering people to where you want the organisation to get to. That doesn't necessarily mean that it involves HR, because a lot of HR functions, as you implied, Giuseppe, can be rather about process rather than people, and about compliance issues rather than generating motivation and good outcomes for their firms. That's just the nature sometimes of the beast. And people who are in the strictly HR consulting world in the UK tell me that there is quite a lag post a downturn, which means it's quite a long time before classic HR consulting recovers, in the sense that you and I would recognise it. And I suspect that's because HR departments are not getting the voice they need to get around the board table, and in terms of the development of the business strategy. And a lot of that will be coming from elsewhere, including major change programs.
May I ask where, if not in HR? Of course, you need a modern HR, not a traditional, just process-based HR. But unless the HR function is looking at that, who else does? Top management, the CEO, the leadership team?
Yeah, it'll be the senior executives of the firm, or the people who own it, and a lot of it, of course, is technology related. So it might be a CIO who's sponsoring the program.
Is any other question? If not, thanks very much, and we see you. Excuse me.
I have a question for the UK representative, Alan. I understand that UK is growing 7%. It is multicultural, so it should be accepted an international company working in UK, and that the rates are higher than in the rest of Europe. Therefore, the question is, are you worried, or you fear that there can be foreign companies coming into UK? Do you feel them as possible competitors? First question. Second question, I didn't see the figures about export, UK export in the other countries that I think can be very fruitful for you because you are very advanced in some businesses like infrastructure and so on. So I would like to know if you have figures about export.
Yeah, sure. On the second point, we have an estimate. I mean, it's total of the total fee income. Somewhere between 15 and 20% is now from overseas, so that's exported services. But as I explained earlier, it comes with the caveat that for a lot of major firms, they just don't report the origin of the work, if you like, or who is servicing the work. So a big accounting or systems integrator could have a huge team who are notionally based in London. They live in the UK, but they're spending all their lives all around the world. And how do they book that income and how do they explain it? But in a sense that it's UK consultants working overseas, that's an export and bringing firm home. To your first point, we see currently a number of overseas consulting firms exploring the UK market, and I think I hope the attitude of our member firms is good. That it should be as competitive a place as possible, and many of them join the MCA and become active participants. And whether they're American-owned, Indian-owned, German-owned, or whatever it is, we see them as part of the great ecology of a great industry, and it's more and more international in its outlook. So why shouldn't that be the case? And just as a little plug, I think having a base in London or the UK is very helpful for a lot of firms because it's partly because of the language issues, partly because of the time zone issues, partly because of the international access, which we're doing our best to maintain. Transport links and so on is a good place to operate from. As well as which you've got a big financial services industry to service just down the road. So I hope that it will continue to be as open as possible. There are always pressures from governments and other people to try and restrain that, but I think the attitude of the UK industry would be that it is a microcosm of the international industry, and we'd expect to see all those influences represented.
We have time for the last question. After Ezio reprimand on time, I have to be very strict. So I have time for one.
Just one very short question. We have seen from the data that Germany has a leading position in market management consultants. So I was wondering why there was no representative of the German market, which should be quite interesting to know what's going on there, since it's very upfront.
We invited the German president of BDU. To be sincerous, he had to come when we programmed the conference for the last autumn. I don't remember, it was in November. After we changed the data, because I don't remember, it was a period with problems in Italian institutional contest. And he was busy today. He is the president of multinational Capgemini, and he couldn't be present. But it was not a fault. Naturally, we invited him.
What's going on in the German market probably is quite interesting because it tells us where it's going to go.
Anyway, in the last international situation where we met him, the numbers were very good for Germany. In 2011, they had a growth of maybe 12%, and 2012 something like this. And I don't know for this year, but in the next FEACO annual survey, which will be ready maybe in October, we will have the data. Sorry, but it's not our fault, but not fault of Mr. Schneider also. Antonio Schneider he wanted to come, but he couldn't.
Okay, thank you very much. See you tomorrow.